Thank you very much. If there's one thing I can teach you about money, whether you're 6, a teenager, a student, or an adult, it's this golden rule. A company's job is to make money from you. It is not your friend. It is not there to help you. Its job is to make money from you. Your job is to stop it. The problem is they spend billions of pounds a year on advertising, on marketing, on teaching their staff to sell. And we don't get any buyer's training. Now, I'm not anti-company. Their job is to make profits. I applaud them. That works. You're going to work for a company in your life. Your job will be to make profit too. But you are the only person who has a responsibility to protect yourself. The great problem is, as a nation in the UK and around the world, we educate our students into debt, but never about debt. Interesting, isn't it? As an obligation as a UK student, unless you have very rich parents, you have to borrow money. But nobody ever tells you how. What I want to talk to you today about is a few things. I want to talk about the UK financial situation, and for those of you who are from overseas, I hope some of it will apply. But I also want to talk about your relationship in the adult world as a student with money, with finance, with companies, with the pound in your own pocket. You will rarely get told any of this. But it's the most crucial lesson you can learn. If you think I'm overplaying that, more people in this country get divorced because of financial issues than any other single factor. Mental health and debt are two of the biggest combinations that go together. Suicide and debt, it's one of the biggest causes of suicide out there. Getting your money right is not a segregated issue that only affects you and your money. It is something that incorporates your whole life, everything you do. If you want to talk about real political empowerment, something this great institution is famous for, let me tell you one thing, it is very difficult without any cash in your pocket. So what I want to do today is just try and make you think a little bit about that. Let's start with debt. Now, as you can probably tell already, I get quite excited when I talk about money. I love it. I'm not interested in money itself. I'm interested in what it can do for you and how you can retain it. Now, I remember being interviewed by a BBC reporter a couple of years ago, and I lost my rag. Because she asked me the question, Martin, can you tell us how you stop students getting into debt? I said, no. And she said, well, no, come on. I said, no, it's a stupid question. The system is designed that students have to get into debt. They're given debt by the government. You have to borrow money. Yes, but my editor wants to know how to stop students getting into debt. Well, your editor's stupid. I'm not going to answer the question, but can't you? No, it's a stupid question. Not only is it a stupid question, it's a dangerous concept. Now, I see parents out there today. I'm guessing yes? I'm nodding. Yes, good. Some of those suits aren't students. Now, let me tell you one of the dangerous things, and it's grandparents who are mainly responsible. They say this phrase, neither a borrower nor a lender be. Don't borrow money. No. Don't borrow money. That's one of the most dangerous phrases in modern society. I'm afraid companies borrow, governments borrow, and we as individuals have to borrow. You have to get debt to go to university. If you want a house in the democratic world, you're very likely to have to borrow for it. So what we need to do is take away this poo-pooing around debt and throw it out of the window. Because if we do that, let me tell you the danger consequence of saying don't borrow money. I've seen it so many times. So you go to university and all you've ever been told is don't borrow money. So you can't live, you've got to borrow, you take out the student loan. Then you take your interest-free overdraft that's given to you on your bank account. And then you need a bit more money. Well, they said don't borrow money, I borrowed money, so what difference does it make? So then you go and get a commercial loan and a commercial credit card and you start spending on that. And you've never delineated between the different types of debt. You've never worked out what the difference is. So you leave university and you've borrowed a lot more than you should, and a lot of it's at commercial interest rates. And now you can't pay it back. Your job doesn't pay you as much as you thought it would, and you're starting to struggle. How do you make ends meet? I'll borrow a bit more. And it's called a debt cycle, so you borrow a bit more. How do you make ends meet? Well, you're going to have to borrow even more, and it's not very long, probably 3 or 4 years after university, that you are now borrowing everything you earn. It's called a spiral. You're spending beyond your means consistently. And this happens because we don't look at the differences between different types of debt. So lesson 1 today, and I know some of you are brilliant economists, or about to be. I'm not. I'm just a simple guy who studied government and law. So I'm going to start with an easy question that you're going to help me on. Okay? I did a program for ITV called Teen Cash Class, where I spent a day with a group of teenagers in a school, and I had to turn them into money-saving experts, which is my title. And in that day, at the end of it, they saved their parents £5,000, 12 of them, between them. It was great. Wonderful. And I did something there that was quite interesting, and I'm going to do the same with you. It was written for them, but let's see if it works. It's called good debt, bad debt. Because this is the concept, you see. Debt isn't bad. Unfortunately, debt is necessary. Bad debt is bad. And we have to learn how to delineate between the two. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm going to ask you whether you think it's good debt or bad debt. Is that all right? Good, thank you. Question number 1. Oh, I haven't been on holiday for ages. I haven't got much money, but I could really do with a nice trip. California's looking fun. I might go there. Cost me £3,000. I earn £12,000 a year. Oh, I'll just put it on a credit card. Who cares? Who thinks that's good debt? Who thinks it's bad debt? Right, that was easy. Question number 2. You know, I've just got married. We're about to have some children. We've been renting for a while. We've saved up. We've got a deposit. But we're going to need to buy a house now. The only way we can buy a house is by getting a mortgage. It's cheap debt. It's secured on our property and it's going to work. It's an investment for our future. Good debt? Hands, please. Thank you. Good, bad debt. Question number 3. I've just got a new job. It's in the country. We've bought a house. It's 10 miles away from where I live. The school's 5 miles away. We don't have any transport. The only way I can get to work is with a car. I've planned it out. I know what I can afford. It's £2,000 for this car, which is within budget. I can make the repayments, and I've checked out that the debt is as cheap as it can possibly be. Good debt? Bad debt? Couple of you. Well, some would say never borrow unless it's for pure investment. Final question. I've got quite a nice car, but I've just seen this Ferrari. It's fantastic. OK, I earn £20,000 a year, but wow, it's really good. And it's red. And I support Manchester United. It's going to cost more than my income each month to pay it off. Good debt? Bad debt? Exactly. Obvious. Trite. Trite questions, you might think. But really important, debt needs to be planned for, budgeted for, rational, and as cheap as it can possibly be. Those are the key concepts. So now let's move on to student finance and apply the same logic. Don't worry, I won't be asking questions, I'm going to be telling you. 3 different types of debts for students in the UK. Debt number 1, the official student loan, provided by the government. This is at a rate of interest which matches inflation. That's the rate of interest. Now, let's think about what this means. For those of you, some of you I'm sure will know this, but we'll go to basics. Inflation is the rate at which prices rise. So, if I go into the supermarket this week with my trolley and I put 100 quid's worth of stuff in, and inflation is 10%, what rate will I pay? How much will I pay for that trolley the next year? £110, 10% on top of 100 quid. Easy. So, if I borrow money at £100 this year, and the interest rate is set at the rate of inflation, which we'll nominally say is 10% because it makes the maths more easy, next year I owe 110 quid. Sounds like I'm paying. But in real terms, I borrowed a shopping trolley's worth of goods, and I'm repaying a shopping trolley's worth of goods. The amount of money in my pocket, my spending power, has not been decreased. Student loans are the cheapest long-term debt you will ever be offered. Cheaper than mortgages, not as cheap as 0% credit cards, but you have to be a credit card tart and play the system to make those work. That's something we could talk about, but it's for another day. So, you can borrow this money at no real cost to you. You don't have to pay it back until you're earning £15,000. And then you only have to pay 9% of what you earn, so it's progressive. It doesn't really hit your pocket too much. It's a very, very clever system. It also doesn't impact your credit score. It doesn't go on your credit score, so it won't impact your ability to get a mortgage like other debt will. Is it good debt? Of course it bloody is. Of course it is. Absolutely. It is the first point of call for borrowing. In fact, I would go further than that. Take every penny you can, even if you don't need it. Take every penny. I'm not saying spend it. Let's think about this. Well, this year, because of an anomaly, it's at 4.8% because the inflation rate is based on the March inflation rate, which was anomalously high. this year, annoyingly. 4.8% is quite high. Last year it was 2.4%, which was anomalously low. It balances out over the years. So you can borrow this money at the rate of inflation. It's the cheapest long-term debt you'll ever get. You'll never be offered this again. Your mortgage won't be that cheap, so you may as well take it now. Even if you don't need it, it is not an encouragement to spend. Take it now, put it in a high-interest bank account, or even better for UK taxpayers, a cash ISA, 6.3% at NS&I, and you're earning money on money they've lent you, because you're being paid more interest than it's actually costing you to borrow it. And you have that facility available later, so you don't need to take out a mortgage, which is why later on in your financial planning, when people ask me, should I pay off my student loan, I say no. So now we've got the student loan. That's pretty bloody obvious. Good debt. Let's take a look at the next thing that's on the list. Interest-free overdrafts. UK banks salivate at the thought of students. Why? Because you're potential future high earners. They know that if they get your custom now, sadly, the likelihood is, by giving you an interest-free overdraft or a free rail card, they will keep you for the next 40 years and make tens of thousands of pounds out of you. Hopefully, because I'm saying that, you will realise that my advice is you take the best student account you possibly can, and then when you graduate, you switch to the best graduate account you possibly can, and then after that, you switch to the best current account you can possibly get. That's how it works. Adversarial consumerism. Our job is to take companies on. They target our apathy, our inertia, our ignorance. We target them. If you go on to work for a bank, you won't like me. So, right now, Halifax Bank of Scotland is offering £2,750 interest-free overdrafts. That's a very good facility that will aid cash flow. We must remember, as soon as you finish university, they will want that money back and paying for it. But you could take that £2,750 that's interest-free and put it in a high-interest bank account again and make some money on it if you chose to. In fact, you can make £300 over your student career by doing that, but you need to be careful by doing so. So, I would say that's reasonable debt. It's good for cash flow, it's an aid, but you shouldn't start to rely on it for life because you're going to have to pay it back, and once you have to pay it back, the terms are not as good. But it's a function you need. And then there's the nightmare. Credit cards, commercial debt, other types of borrowing, other types of loans charged at real interest rates that will trap you in. And they will keep you there. And they will have you for a long time. Right, here's a question, LSE audience, London School of Economics, some of the greatest mathematical and economic thinkers in the country. I have £3,000 on a high street credit card at 17.9% interest. The minimum repayments I must make are £5 a month or 2% of my outstanding borrowing. How long will it take me to pay that card off if I only make the minimum repayments? Not never. You will pay it off. 41 years. It's actually 40 years, 8 months. You're good. At an interest cost of £6,300. Credit cards, minimum repayments are designed to keep you perpetually in debt. They are the enemy. They're not bad. They're commercial companies. We live in a capitalist world. Their job's to make money. We should understand that and accept that. But we should see our job is something different. So this is the first lesson. I am not here to tell you do not borrow. I'm here to say student loans. Good. Interest-free overdrafts, reasonable. Commercial debt, bad. Now, okay, it sounds silly. I get 5,000 emails a day from people who've got money problems. Sadly, I can't answer them all. They use the website. It's a free resource for people to use. 3 million users a month. I'm very, very proud of it. But a lot of people get into bad debt at this point. So you may think, is it a bit oversimplistic? I could have worked that out. I'm not going to borrow too much money. Well, you will. Someone in this room, sadly, will be in debt crisis one day. I'm sorry. But maybe, before I started this speech, there might have been 5 people. If there's only one, I would be grateful. So let's start to understand and think carefully about what you can do with your money. Just while I'm here, some quick other sources of funding for students. The first one, you will get a grant to replace a proportion of your loan if you've got income under £38,000. Number one, if you've got your parental incomes under £17,000, you need to make sure you get a bursary because this is a full tuition fee institution. Therefore, you're entitled to a bursary with parental income under £17,000. 3, check out scholarships. They may be based on your religion, your location, what country you come from, what your parents do. There are lots of scholarships. There's a scholarship search website and there's the educational grants website. Go on them, check whether you're entitled to any money. Simple as that. And the final one, the LSE has an access fund, the student union has a hardship fund. There are sources of money out there, and there's a great welfare establishment both at this university and for those watching on the video at many universities around the country who will help you if you are in trouble. The most important thing you can do if you are in trouble is go and get free non-profit debt help. That's the key. I should say one more thing. And interestingly, the General Secretary, the President of the Union, a job I did myself in 1994-95, was meant to introduce me today, but he obviously got caught up in something. Beware student unions. I was a president of one, or General Secretary as it's called here. Beware them. They are wonderful, amazing institutions. They will look after you. They will do wonderful things. I'm very proud that I was a president of one. But one of the ways they make money is the following. They sell one bank unique exclusive rights to access a freshers' fair. Probably sell it for 20,000. Right across the country this happens and it helps the student union's funds. But they tend to do that because they're students themselves and they're trying to do the best for their institutions without looking at which the actual best bank account is. So when you go to freshers' fair or new student fair and you walk in, don't just sign up to that bank. Remember, unless you have disability issues, you can take your money out of any cash machine. Doesn't matter what your bank is. You want the one who gives you the best facilities. So just beware not to sign up. Everything we do in this life is competitive. Every single thing out there, I don't care what it is, there is a competitive marketplace, and nothing more than in banking. And so you need to make sure the best way to enhance your money is by engaging that competition. Engage it every single time. Question, can I get it cheaper elsewhere? Can I get it better? What will cost me less? What will minimise their profits? And that brings me rather nicely, I thought, back to where I started.